Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. I am your host, Bryan Burns, and joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Molly Barbieri.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
And today we have a pirate sitting in the hot seat. We have Matt Moss from the Mystic Crew of Gasparilla. We've got, obviously, the big Gasparilla pirate invasion and festival is upon us. It's Gasparilla season. At the end of the month, the big Gasparilla parade will happen. The invasion will happen. The weekend before that, we've got the Gasparilla Children's Parade, which is always a big deal. And this is always like the time of year when we start gearing up for Gasparilla. So thank you for your time, for coming.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is a busy part of the season for you, but thanks for coming and being here with us and telling us a little bit more about Gasparilla, about Ye Mystic Crew of Gasparilla, and everything that just kind of comes along with that.
Oh, well, I appreciate you having me to be able to talk a little bit more about what goes into the whole Gasparilla experience. Ye Mystic Crew started it back in 1904.
Yeah.
And there used to be a kind of like a May Day type parade that they would do back at the old local fairgrounds where University of Tampa is.
Okay.
And the story that I've heard, and of course it all changes throughout the years, embellished a little bit more, but it wasn't going that well. So there were the society editor for the Tampa Tribune, Mary Louise Dodge, I think was her name, and then a gentleman by the name of Harding that worked for the city of Tampa came up with this idea to kind of capitalize on the myth of Jose Gaspar that used to run kind of the west coast of Florida.
Yeah.
That was his territory, hunting ground, so to speak, for taking over merchant ships and getting his loot. So they tried to play off of that. And of course, back in the day, we didn't have instant messaging or anything like that. So they actually sent letters to the editor.
Oh, wow.
And basically it was like, hey, my name's Jose Gaspar. My crew is going to come take over your little May Day event that's going on. And they kind of went back and forth throughout the weeks leading up to it. And supposedly there was 40 guys that came riding in on horseback. Some of them were actually too afraid to even ride on horses.
Yeah.
So they walked in and dressed as pirates and kind of took over the May Day parade. And it was a huge hit. So they just kept coming back year after year after year, and we've done it every year since 1904. Vice a couple years.
Yeah, I saw there were like maybe 10 years where it didn't happen.
I'm not even sure if it was that many, but it was definitely a few because the leaders just felt that it probably wasn't right to have this big, huge festival and this parade while, we were in a world war. So they stopped it for a couple times for that. But ever since then, it's been growing and growing and growing. And now it's the third largest parade in the United States behind the Rose Bowl and Macy's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then
even larger than Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Because if you think about Mardi Gras is a series of smaller parades throughout,
and this is just
a span.
one
and this is all one big,
one.
huge, gigantic parade, as well as a probably the only maritime invasion of a major U.S. city.
Right.
So which is always fun.
You think back to like 1904 and, people that didn't know what was going on, and you see these guys come in on horseback, or they're reading these like letters to the other, and they're like, is this real? Like, what's going on here?
And I think
was actually panicked.
Right. And I think that's what started a lot of the interest.
Yeah.
Is they're like, are these guys for real? What's this all about?
Right.
And then they see him come storming in on horseback and shooting guns and having a good time, and people just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, they truly invaded Tampa.
Yeah, basically, really did.
It's like just a great marketing gimmick,
Yeah, it really
you think
is,
of like a great something like cool with marketing. You start something and like look into what this thing has grown into.
Right, it's unbelievable, and I mean we've had, I think a lot of times it's over 300,000 people during the parade. I do remember back when we also did the parade in conjunction with the Super Bowl, and I think they've said they will never, ever do that again because the town was gridlocked. And I remember sitting over at the Marriott Waterside, and Ron Jaworski used to play for the Eagles, was a big ESPN announcer, and he sat next to us, and very likable guy, even though he played for the Eagles. But he was asking about it, and he was like, yeah, I had this driver and I could go anywhere I wanted with the driver. We couldn't get anywhere. So we got out and we walked everywhere, and nobody cared who I was because I wasn't dressed like a pirate.
Right.
He was like, you guys got all the attention. You guys were dressed as pirates. Everybody loved you. They ignored me. So we thought that was just kind of a fun little story that he was a little He was enamored,
Right.
basically, about how the whole city embraces the Tampa or the pirate mentality and gets into it. You know, it's now evolved into, you know, almost a month and a half of events that we do between the kids parade, the day parade. There's a night parade.
Yes, that's a big one,
and then we
too.
also we reinstated about 10 years ago the sailback, which is we basically, you know, leave town. They finally kick us out and say, go home, come back next year.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I saw on your website was, I think it was around the 80s. The parade used to be on a Monday.
It was on a Monday.
And then they moved it to the weekend. Like, could you imagine these days trying to do this parade on a Monday and then people going into work the next day on a Tuesday?
I don't think people would go into work the
people
next
just
day.
call off.
And I mean, it's usually, as it is now, there's so many events that go on, especially for our crew, during that week that you can see that the business activity in this town kind of slows down a little bit as you get into the Wednesday prior to Gasparilla. I was actually born in Tampa, so when I was a little kid, I remember going to the parade on Monday. We got out of school, and there were no barricades. You sat right there on the curb, and it wasn't the beads and stuff that we're all throwing now and plushed animals and stuff. It was all about the coins, and then you would get the spent gun shells.
Okay.
And the guys would just empty their revolver and throw it out into the crowd. And, you know, as a little kid, you're like, oh, wow, that smells so cool. Wow, that's, you know, you enjoyed the smell of the gunpowder. So it's, you know, slowly evolved into, you know, what we have now, where it's all about the beads, and we have all these other little toys that we like to throw out now.
Yeah. What a cool memory, though. As
like
a little kid.
It was fantastic.
And to get out of school, I'm sure that was the big thing.
That was the bonus. And then as we started to try to evolve the parade and get more and more groups involved into it, because if you look at some of the old pictures, it was a lot of like department stores and things like that had the floats. And really it was just the Mystic Crew pirates that were the only ones involved, but we wanted to kind of spread it out a little bit and continue to make it bigger. So we invited other groups to join us. And in order to do that, then you really had to kind of move it from a Monday, and then get it onto a weekend so that you could actually get more involvement from other groups.
So for like the commoner, the normal Tampa resident, you know, Gasparilla, we start getting hyped up about it, you know, around this time of year. And then like if you have children, obviously you go to the children's parade, but you know, we just really know Gasparilla, the
like
parade,
the big parade. Invasion,
But for you, like when does Gasparilla season really start? It feels like it's almost like a year-round.
It is for some of us. As far as the actual kind of official side of Gasparilla, we have a meeting in the fall. But then as we get closer, we have an election meeting in 2 weeks where we elect our new king and our new queen. So that's kind of the kickoff of it. And then as we get into the week of Gasparilla, then we do hospital visits in the mayor's raid on Tuesday. And then we have our captain's ball, which is a big party that we throw before the parade. And then the parade itself is on Saturday. And that, you know, everybody thinks everybody comes rolling into the parade I think it starts at 2. And the invasion leaves at 11:30. We land at the convention center at 1, and people just kind of roll out of bed then. But for us, I mean, I'm up at like 6 a.m.
It starts early.
Yeah, it's and we always say it's a marathon, not a sprint,
right?
Because you're out and about all day long. So I'm fortunate enough to live downtown, but they start closing the streets. And we have to get all the way down to Ballast Point Pier is where the pirate ship leaves from. So I'm up at like 6, getting dressed real quick, and then there are several spots around town that will do a breakfast, and we have professional makeup artists come in and do our makeup for the actual parade, and you can get as crazy as you want or as simple as you want. Because I remember when my niece would show up all the time, she got really scared if I had a bunch of blood and scars and stuff on my face. So while she was still young, I had to tone it down and just put a nice beard on, and that's about it. But now that she's older and understands, you know, now I can go full blown with black eyes and gunpowder and blood.
And so is this what you would wear? This is what you'll wear on Gasparilla, but you'll have face paint on.
Correct.
With them.
And it really kind of depends. We were discussing weather, and it kind of depends on what that weather is going to be like. So a lot of us have several different outfits. Like this is one I use a lot for the we'll get into it later, the community service side of stuff, just because it's kind of loud and really makes a statement. But during the parade, I'll usually wear this same shirt, and we have a vest. A lot of our guys end up wearing vests, and we have all sorts of different patches, and sometimes you got to clean up some of your patches for the different events that you end up doing. But so I've got a parade outfit. I've got this jacket if it's cold. We did a couple events already this year charity events that it was freezing. Yeah. So people make fun of me for the jacket, but I'm like, yeah, I'm warm. You guys are not. Then for the captain's ball, it's sort of what we call dressy pirate attire. So you have kind of more satin and silk, shiny, flashing stuff. Yeah,
that sounds interesting.
I know, right?
And so then you've got the parade attire. So you got several different outfits that you can wear. And again, really weather dependent.
That's fun.
So
that's really fun. Yeah. So I want to talk about a little bit of the day of Gasparilla. You said you wake up super early. You mentioned a little bit about the invasion aspect of it when you're on the water and you're on the ship. What is the official name of the ship? The Jose Gasparilla.
Yes.
Okay. And all of these guys that are in the Mystic Crew of Gasparilla are just kind of sailing in on this boat. Like, talk to me about that experience.
So once we get the makeup, we all kind of muster up down at the Tampa Yacht Club, and then we'll walk over to the Ballast Point Pier, and that's where we get on. My guys, you have your core group of friends that are in the crew, and everybody's kind of got their spot. There's certain guys sit here, certain guys sit there. We're usually starboard rail about midship. So we get over there early. We'll start walking over at about 10:30, and then you get your spot, and then usually you kind of take turns. There's drinks on there that you can get. We have Cuban sandwiches and fried chicken. So you always go over, you grab a Cuban sandwich.
Where's your Cubans from? Where's your Cubans from?
I forget exactly where we get them from. I'm not going to tell you if I knew, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Spot?
Yeah.
At least they're Cuban sandwiches.
Yes, they're definitely, because of course we all know that Tampa is the original
absolutely
maker of the Cuban sandwich. So you always end up grabbing, you eat one sandwich during the sail over, and then you always throw one in one of your pockets.
Oh, that's smart.
So that as you continue down the parade route and you start getting hungry, you can just, get a little sustenance to keep you going.
You've got a little lubricator. You stick your hand in that pocket. You're like, oh, wow, what a great idea that was 10 hours ago.
Which brings up a funny story, like my first year doing that. And I had, we always have the bead bag. So I set the bead bag down that had my safety sandwich in it. And as we get ready to go, we're kind of looking over the rail, and I see this Cuban sandwich go floating by. And I'm like, oh man, some sorry son of a gun's not going to have his sandwich. Fast forward a couple hours later on the parade route, I'm hungry, and I'm like, oh, that sorry son of a gun was me.
Yeah.
So my sandwich went floating off to the manatees so I was left hungry the rest of the route. So
at least I got to experience Tampa culture.
Exactly.
How long has the invasion always been a part of the whole Gasparilla celebration, or was that something that came later?
It started coming a little bit later.
Okay.
I think the latest iteration of the Jose Gasparilla was built in 52, and we had that specially built just for us and for the invasion. Yeah. And I think we had at least one, maybe two other ships prior to that. But that ends up being, to me, the best part about it, because the parade's fantastic and everybody loves a parade. It's huge. We have 120 different units, 95 different groups that are involved with us. But the invasion is really what makes, Tampa special. Mm-hmm. And I think there's only one other sort of invasion like that over in Europe that I've heard about. But as far as the United States, nobody else ever takes over a U.S. city by pirate ship. And as we come sailing through, come across the bay and into the Seddon Channel over here, I remember before I got into the crew and being on the sidelines watching, you just felt the energy before you could even see or hear the pirate ship. And you just knew something big was about to happen. And then you first hear the gunfire and the cannons. And then all of a sudden you can see the top of the mast of the ship coming around the corner. And then you see the smoke from all the cannons blazing. And then you get that brief, 5 minutes or whatever that it's like right in front of you going by. And you just feel the power and the excitement that is involved in the ship, and the whole crowd gets involved.
I've got to imagine when you're on that ship, it's got to be such a cool feeling, like to come down the channel, the convention center's right in front of you, you see all these people around you, they're cheering, and you're like at the forefront of this giant celebration that's about to happen.
It is a really amazing feeling because you come around the corner and you could, start seeing people more and more along the parade route. Then you get towards, the downtown convention area. And then you start seeing people lined up, sometimes 5-10 deep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just kind of like, holy smokes, oops, this is my fault. I'm kind of responsible for all this. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So you get to really see this just mass of humanity, everybody together, everybody playing the part, dressed like pirates or wenches, having a good time together. It really brings the city, together as one, and we just have a ball for that whole day and afternoon.
And I feel like the invasion is a part of it that maybe gets a little bit overlooked. Like the parade kind of takes the forefront of the celebration. But I would encourage anybody that's listening to this to go check out the invasion. It's such a, like you said, it's a unique thing that you're not going to see anywhere else in the United States, really anywhere else in the world. And it's such a Tampa thing, such a thing that we own and is a part of this fabric of the city. I think it's just such a cool event that everybody needs to experience outside of just going to the parade.
Yeah. Exactly. And I mean, we're so blessed with the waterfront and the Riverwalk and everything that we have in this town that to be able to capitalize in, and it makes the whole bay a stage.
Really
for
does,
this whole event that's coming around. So we come around the corner, and there can be 500-600 different private vessels following us up, into the channel, and then a lot of them just anchor out and hang out all afternoon, and you can kind of see parts of the parade, from the water. So they make a great event out of it, and then we all get on the parade route and have an absolute blast. Just interacting, and then you really feel the cliche is that you're a rock star for the day,
right?
And you just have a ball because everybody's interested in trying to get beads, or sometimes we have the stuffed animals and the other little toys to throw out, and that's what everybody wants.
I think for me, that's a bucket list experience, is doing Gasparilla from a boat. I've never, I've always done the parade, but I've never experienced it from a boat, kind of watching the parade from afar, but being in the mix with all those other people. And
it's definitely, first and foremost, always want to make sure you got a sober driver.
Yeah.
Because it can get chaotic out there. And
Absolutely.
It can get to be a little bit of bumper boats.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun, because, we're protected with the police presence.
Yeah.
We get as far as Manatee County and some of the other, I think, Lake Wales sends people over in their boats to kind of keep everybody away from the pirate ship. But it's fun to sit there as you're, smoking a nice, Fuente cigar and hanging out, watching the chaos go on around you. And then you start seeing, sometimes in some cases, $1 million boats, almost playing bumper boats.
Right.
But it's just part of being, the involvement of it.
So how did you get involved in the Mystic Crew of Gasparilla? Like, I mean, how did you become a pirate? Because I feel like that's such a phenomenon to a lot of people, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, and of course it's changed over the years. Obviously, with the popularity of Tampa and everybody moving down here, more and more people, want to get involved. Basically, when I moved back to town, I moved back in the year 2000, and I love the fact that Gasparilla and the tradition and the family traditions that have been a part of Ye Mystic Crew of Gasparilla over the years, and being the founding group. The biggest thing was just getting involved in the community.
Yeah.
So attending charity events, going to sporting events, networking and meeting people. And I had done that for approximately 10 years until I really felt that, I had made enough connections to really kind of make my application, so to speak, look, presentable.
Mm-hmm.
And had a couple dear friends of mine that put me up for membership, and it's gotten a lot worse now. I was very fortunate that when I put my application, the economy wasn't doing very well. And some guys, had to drop out for financial reasons. So I was very fortunate that I got in, I think, my second year after waiting, and it's just been a whirlwind ever since. And
it's like an application process.
It is an application process.
I always thought of it like being on a crew was almost like a family tradition. Like if your great grandfather, whatever, was a part of the crew back in 1904, whenever it started, and it just kind of got passed down from family to family.
And there is still a lot of that, and that's what made You Missed It Crew so important to me, was because of that family tradition and the lineage of.
And did you have family that was?
No,
part
I didn't
of that?
actually. So that's why I was very fortunate that I was kind of an outsider.
Yeah, okay.
But I had.
So there is a chance for an outsider to get into something like this.
And there is a, my dad was playing high school of 56, so he knew a lot of the guys. Yeah. And he kind of just said, if you're going to do that, you're going to do this on your own. So he really didn't, make phone calls or anything for me. He allowed me to do it on my own. So I was very fortunate, and I just made a couple really good friends that were involved in the crew that had some pull, and I was able to get in as a non-legacy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because you also have these like really nostalgic memories of going to Gasparilla as a child, and now you're an adult and get to be in Gasparilla, and honestly, you are Gasparilla. Like it's really, really cool.
It's really just an amazing experience that I'm very fortunate. And the part I liked about it is you get to share it with your family. So we would have, parties on the back of the boat. Once I got into the crew, I would set it up for my family to sit on. We've got a little boat that sits over here on the Seddon Channel as we come up. So that's why I was always on the starboard rail, so that I could wave and take pictures of them as they're waving and taking pictures of me. But it was a family. My brother and niece would come in from out of town. My parents lived down in Bradenton, so they would drive up and spend the weekend, enjoying everything that it has to offer. And that was one of the interesting sides of, once I did get into the crew, one of the things that I realized and learned was that the family really matters. And they really, it's not just go out on a Saturday and raise hell. There's so many other events that go throughout the year that is very, very family oriented. Yeah. And so it's a great way to kind of get your family involved. And, again, it's just the fabric of Tampa. And a lot of these, families are the ones that, built this town and made it into the great place that everybody wants to live now.
Yeah, it's really created an identity for Tampa. Just kind of like in every aspect, even like our football team's literally called the Buccaneers. You
look at our logo, it's like a skull. It's kind of a play on a skull and crossbones.
You can see right there. Yeah, it's like it's a play on skull and crossbones and a Jolly Roger, and also just the key in Unlocking Tampa Bay. So
which is the name of this podcast.
It is.
It all comes together.
I know it
all comes together.
But it's it's that fabric. And if you think about the the pirate lifestyle, it's there was a lot of tradition and a lot of military side and organization to the historical pirates. But then that's what Tampa has. We have the family side of things. We're blessed to have MacDill Air Force Base down here. So you get this business side of things, which Tampa has, and we're really growing our business side of things. And then you also have the fun side of it, and that's kind of that pirate lifestyle was that way back in the day, where they had to go out, of course, robbing and stealing from people, but then they also had a fun live life to the fullest. And I think that's really what Tampa offers, is that you have this great work life, and then you can also have a lot of fun and live life to the fullest. So that's why I think it's really entwined into the fabric of Tampa, and why everybody's embraced it so much.
And you were telling us before we started here that everybody sees you guys on the boat or on the parade float, and you're dressed up, you look like a pirate, and they think you do that and then you put it away until next Gasparilla. But there's a lot of stuff that you guys do in the community throughout the year to kind of sustain this as it goes throughout the year. And it's not just Gasparilla or the 1 month in January when Gasparilla is.
Absolutely. And I've gotten to the point where part of it's kind of a lifestyle now.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I can be doing something in June and have to wear a pirate costume, and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah.
But along the lines that you're talking about is that Gasparilla, you can make it whatever you want. And we've got guys that, just love riding on the pirate ship, love doing the parade, and then they go back to their normal lives. I've been very fortunate to get involved with a group called the Grenadiers, and that's kind of our special events charity arm of the crew, and we do over 60 events a year of charity type stuff, anything that helps promote Tampa Bay, which was, basically the whole reason why the crew got started was to promote Tampa. We're always out and about in the community. We were very fortunate to have George Steinbrenner as one of the crew members, and something that was very important to him and his family still to this day was education.
Yeah.
So he wrote a very large check and established a charitable foundation to give scholarships to a bunch of the local kids. And over the years now that we've been doing it, we've given over $1.4 million to local kids. Last year, I think we had one of our biggest years where we gave over $140,000.
Oh, that's amazing.
To some of the local kids. And being this, the kind of the charity arm of the crew, I get the fortunate, going out and doing that and handing out those checks to these kids. And, they're here at one of the local high schools, and all of a sudden the stage is stormed by a bunch of pirates, and here we go with this huge check for, $14,000.
Yeah.
To help them throughout their 4 years of school. Another highlight that I love to do is the mayor's raid on the Tuesday prior to Gasparilla. We get up in the morning, we show up at headquarters, and we basically fan out throughout the community, and we go visit a lot of the hospitals, children's hospitals, some of the special assist hospital or schools and stuff throughout the town, and we'll do that first and kind of pass out the little plush animals and stuff like that. Visit, walking in, like I remember one year I was fortunate enough to go over to the cancer hospital over in St. Pete, and just to watch these kids for just that brief moment of all the garbage they're going through, fighting cancer. And then you walk in and you just get this huge smile. And for just that brief moment, they forget about what's going on, and they're just happy to get a little stuffed animal or a cannonball and stuff like that. So we do that throughout the year with all these other events. Like we're definitely going to be involved with the NHL Stadium Series coming up, and so that's going to be kind of fun. So anything that promotes the town of Tampa, city of Tampa, that's we get out into the community and try to do that.
Yeah, it's great that you get to have so much fun at Gasparilla, but then you get to spread more fun throughout these events that you're just talking about.
It makes it a year-round event for me.
Yeah,
is that, and there's about 40 of us in the we call it Gaspar's Grenadiers that get to go out into the community on a regular basis and just try to spread cheer and keep that little thought of the pirate and Gasparilla going throughout the rest of the year. So it's not just a weekend event.
And you're a pilot by trade.
Yes,
that's your lay job.
That's normally what I do. So in addition, so we do these 60 plus events. All of us have real jobs, so to speak.
Yeah, this is like your side gig.
it is basically a side gig. And sometimes people think that, we're like paid actors or something. No, we pay to do this.
Yeah.
We have annual dues that help sponsor the parade. As a grenadier, we also have dues that help pay for all the giveaways that we get to do. But it's, for us, it's worth it. Again, like I said, you go into that hospital and you see that kid's face light up, and he forgets what he's going through. It makes it all worthwhile and a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Someone asked me a question earlier today. We were talking, I was talking to some people about who we were going to interview today on the podcast. And they're like, I've always wanted to know if you can bounce from crew to crew. Is that something that happens, or is that something that's kind of like once you get your crew, you're stuck, or you're not stuck, but like that's your group and you stick with those guys? Is there any like jumping around?
There's not a lot of jumping around.
Yeah.
Obviously if you fortunate enough, if you get into our crew, then you're there, you're done.
Yeah.
You're
not looking to get to another crew. You just want
to.
Right. And that's one of the really cool things that we've done over the years is we've opened up the parade and by moving it from a Monday to a Saturday, allows more involvement for all the other different crews. And there's actually a website, the Inter Crew Council, that we helped start that lists all the different crews. And you find one that kind of fits your personality.
Yeah.
And a group that you would like to hang out with. And each of them have their different membership criteria and what they look for, and they'll have different open parties and things to go kind of meet, the people in there. But we've got just such a wide range of different crews. We were very fortunate with the to have the Latin background with, Ybor City and stuff like that. So we've got a crew that's predominantly, the Latin group. And then we've got a Caribbean crew that's in the parade now.
Yeah.
And I thought our costumes were colorful and fun. You look at them and you're like, holy smokes. Yeah. They really know how to do it. So it's really branched out. So whatever you want to do, you can really kind of find a group that fits, what you want to accomplish.
That's awesome.
As you guys founded or were there from the beginning of Gasparilla, are you guys seen as the top crew? Are you is there a ranking of crews and you guys would be at the top of the pyramid?
Obviously like to think we are.
Right.
But because it is, our parade, we did start it. We do a lot of the work because we've got a full-time office staff.
Yeah,
wow.
It's also hosted by you guys every year.
Right,
I mean, when you're on the website, it literally says hosted by Ye Mystic Crew of Gasparilla.
It's our parade. But we have a full-time staff that takes care of all the floats year round. We update them every couple of years. It really is organized, herding cats during this time of year. But that's the beauty of it. It's really this organized chaos.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to our staff at the office that really keep us on track. Because I mean, there's 120 different, parade units.
Yeah.
And you've got to keep those going. We've got a staff of guys that volunteer and are selected and trained to be parade marshals.
It's a lot of
and they ride around in golf carts and, keep the pace of the parade moving because you don't want these huge gaps.
Right.
Because you start thinking about the functionality and how to actually run a parade. If you've got 3 floats and then you've got a 15-minute break, the 15-minute break, people are going to, go to the beer stand and just disappear. And they may not, actually come back and enjoy the rest of the parade. So there's a lot of organization involved into, running and keeping this. So we have a full-time staff and they get started as soon as the parade season's over.
Yeah.
They immediately have a meeting with, the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Coast Guard's really involved because of the, the invasion and the pirate ship. So those guys will, have a postmortem, so to speak, after the parade. Would we do right? Would we do wrong?
Yeah, I imagine that's pretty important to do that right after while it's fresh in your mind.
Still fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
And then, we all think about it, come up with a plan. And then I think it's usually in about August, they start meeting at least once a month leading up to, parade season where we're like, okay, let's try to implement this. Let's try to implement that. And we've had some great things that we've started over the years of, like the no beads in the bay, type thing where we've really tried to, you can imagine 500 boats following a 150-foot steel-hulled pirate ship coming into town with, guys and girls throwing beads and stuff. It kind of clogs up the water a little bit. So we've really made a conscious effort to try to refrain from doing that and telling all the other boats, it's easy to control us,
right?
On the pirate ship because we just say, look, don't do it. And we're like, okay, yes, sir.
But you've got all these rogue boats behind you. You don't know who these people are.
You don't know who they are and what, what they're going to do. So it's really been a good PR effort to try to keep that stuff, out of the bay, in which, again, we're so blessed in this, city of Tampa to have this waterfront that you don't want to ruin it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were talking a little bit before we started here about, you've got someone in a helicopter spotting for manatees, making sure that, there aren't any manatees in the path of the flotillas that's coming down. And if it is, you got to go around.
Yeah. We'll basically, move the ship or the invasion around where they are. So thankfully it's a little cooler this time of the year. So they're usually hanging out down at the power plant.
For sure.
So it's not, it hasn't been that big of a deal, but there has been a couple times where, we've slowed the whole invasion just to make sure that the manatees are safe. And it's again, it's a huge part of the fabric of Tampa as far as the waterfront, in addition to Gasparilla, that we want them to both coexist together.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for talking to us about Gasparilla, about Ye Mystic Crew, about your life, how you got involved. It's so fascinating to me as an outsider who came to Tampa. My first experience with Tampa was a Gasparilla, and I just remember being in Tampa, being a part of the celebration and thinking, wow, this is a really cool place. I could see myself living here. And then lo and behold, a couple years later, I moved here and I've been here for like 21 years since then. But it's really great to hear your story. And like, where will people, if they want to see you out and about during Gasparilla season, obviously you'll be on the boat, but are there some other activities or places where you'll be where maybe people can see you?
Probably the easiest way to get up close to some of us will be that Mayor's Raid on Tuesday,
the Tuesday before,
which is right at lunchtime in Lakes Gaslight Park.
Yeah.
And we'll have a stage set up and the mayor will come out, and then you'll definitely hear us before that because we ride around in one of our floats shooting our cannons and our guns. So it kind of wakes up the neighborhood, kind of softening the defenses before the main evasion. So it's a great, at lunchtime to kind of come up and get, up close and personal and get some good swag before the parade even starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready for Gasparilla now. I was kind of like, I wasn't, I hadn't gotten there yet, but I'm ready now.
Oh, I was ready, yeah.
You've been ready for a while?
Yeah, I've been ready, yeah. And this year, Gasparilla is on the 31st, and then the Children's Parade is the weekend before, which is the 24th. So anyone interested, mark your calendars.
Yeah. And that's another, that is a great event that's a little more toned down than the day parade.
A lot more family-friendly.
A little family-friendly, alcohol-free, and, we're very lucky to have, that's like the largest kids parade in the United States. And I think one of our stat sheets said there's, close to 10,000.
It's gained a lot of traction in the past few years as well.
And that's really become, and that's the first time you actually get to see the pirate ship come around the corner.
Right.
Because we'll come around the corner with it and then we'll park it and it'll be lit up with all sorts of, laser lights. And then there's big fireworks display, later in the night, and then the pirate ship will sit out there until Wednesday. Yeah, and then we take it and get it cleaned up and get it ready to go for the invasion.
Fun.
Right, and then you said you had the take back where the ship goes back.
Sailback, yes.
Sailback.
So at the end, so we have the kids parade, day parade, night parade, then the last, and then we have a couple other private events that we do. Yeah. And then the last event is Sailback, which has become one of my favorite events because it's a little more toned down. It's not as loud. Right. Where we'll bring the pirate ship usually over to Channel Side. And prior to that, the Grenadier group, we get to take a lot of the pediatric cancer kids out for a pirate for a day.
That's great.
And we drive them around, downtown and stuff and let them shoot the guns and cannons and stuff like that. So it's really, again, another chance for them to just kind of forget what's going on in their lives medically and just have fun. So then we'll bring the pirate ship over to Channel Side, and then that's when we all get on it, and the city says we're done.
Right, sail away.
We've had enough.
Get out of here. We've had enough. Time to go to Betty Ford and kind of relax a little bit for the next 10 months.
Yeah, Matt, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. Hopefully, we get to show a little bit of the passion that we have for not only the city of Tampa, but for Gasparilla. It's just really an amazing event that we're so fortunate to have been doing since 1904.
Yeah, we'll be looking for you when we're down in the crowd amongst the peons. You'll be up there. We'll say, hey, we know that guy.
I like to walk. I like to walk the parade so I can get up close and personal with my peeps, and I'm a man of the people. So.
All right, well, we'll be looking for you.
Looking forward to it.
All right, great. Thank you for watching another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. Join us next time as we unlock more treasures around Tampa Bay.